Alright, so what I want to do today is I want to show you guys how to make a plate. Now, there are many different ways to make a plate. There's a lot of people smarter than me on how to make a plate. This is the way that I know how to make a plate. And so therefore, since I'm the teacher for the day, I get to show you how I would do it. What I do is I first wet this down, remove the water, so now it's tacky. I like to use 3 pounds. And the type of plate that I want to make is more of like a bowl-ish type plate. A regular plate is a little bit boring for me, and it's the way I know how to do it. So first thing I do is I create an oil slick. Make sure my legs are on up. I go in here, I want to squeeze the clay together. So I squeeze it on up. And now, when I want this to center up, I first need to clear up down here. The reason this gets cleared off is so my hand doesn't bounce up and down, I'll hold it steady. So I take my hand here and this hand here, and I'm gonna literally push this clay down and over, and that helps flatten it out. You see how that bends over when I push? So I make sure it's wet and I push it over and then I push on down. When I get near centered, I slowly let go, wet my hands, wet this down. I'm gonna squeeze in again, squeeze and squeeze to raise it up a little bit. My goal is to hold this arm steady. Slowly let go. I'm gonna wet it down again and I push it on down. Now this is where it gets a little bit different. When I'm pushing down, I'm using this part of my hand and I'm gonna lean it into the center, and then I'm gonna pull this back. And that's giving me a slight concave or a slight bowl or whatever fancy words you wanna use. I hold this steady, I lean this in, and I pull it back. So I hold steady here, I lean this in, and then I slowly bring it back. I'm using my shoulders to bring it back, whatever it takes, and then I slowly let go. I wet it all down. You can see it's kind of up here, down here, and up here. So I want to smush this out a little bit, and I'm going to bring it back just a little bit further. I'm going to throw this wide enough so that it would be like a little bigger than a salad plate and a little smaller than a dinner plate. So I set this down, I push down in the center, and I pull my hand back slowly, keeping pressure with my left hand back here. So now, it's basically rather bullish. You can see that slant that took place. And so now I want to ask myself, have I gone far enough down? Did I go far enough? What's going on? So, I can check it with my trusty needle tool. I wet this down. I stop the wheel. I push down the middle. And I can see, when I do that, how thick it is. It's probably about like that, which is a little thin for me. I'd rather it be a little bit thicker. But since this is a demo, I can lie and say it was thicker than it is. Oh, it's way thick enough, but it's really not. We know it's not. So, anyways, I can take clay now and I can push this back on down, and I bring it back out. Push it down. Bring it back out. So what am I doing? I'm compressing. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that it stays compressed. I don't want any air bubbles in there. And now out here, what's a little bit different is I'm actually gonna pull these walls kind of up. The way I pull them up is I keep plenty of water in my sponge, and if you'd ask why, it's because if I go like this, you can see there's water all the time at my fingertips, so that way it won't get too dry out here. I'm gonna take this hand and I'm gonna slide it out towards here, I'm gonna lift up. So I slide out, and then I lift up. I don't want to come up too fast. I want to take my time. And then I want to compress the rim. I can wet this down. I can do that one more time. I slide out. And then I compress the rim. It's a little bit wobbly, a little more wobbly than I'd like it to be, but that's okay. And then I take this tool now, this is my rib, and I want to push this down so I can get rid of any bumps that might be inside of there. I hold on to the rib where I have my thumb in there, my fingers back here. I'm going to start with this end in here, and I'm going to push it down. I'm putting more pressure here than I am here, so this doesn't disfigure this, but this helps compress. And I push down, and so I'm compressing. Now I'm pushing down pretty hard. When I get near this edge out here, I'm going to slowly let go and remove some of the clay I had. I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to keep this out here underneath so it doesn't fall down. And I'm going to be pushing more, same thing, with this part of my hand. Slow the wheel down. And I just go nice and slow. See how I'm not rushing into anything? See how I slowly slide my hand to the outside? And I slowly go back in. And I'm keeping my hand as steady as I can on the outside here. Slow the wheel down if I need to. So now, I have a decision to make. I'm at a crossroad in my life. I need to decide what to do. And sometimes I don't know. I don't always have the answers. Do I want this to be a saucer plate? Or do I want this to be a dinner plate? Am I looking for peas and runny things? Or am I looking for meat and taters, stable things? These are questions that I have, and I'll need to come to that answer now. For general purpose, let's say it was a runny pea type deal. I would now just use my rib or my sponge out here. I'd look at it and I'd say that is pretty, and I would call it good. But since we're giving a demo today, I'm gonna now take my rib and I'm gonna turn this more into a plate type dealy wheelie. So I hold on to my sponge, I keep this out here. I now switch. I now go on the flat side. I go out here near the edge and I slowly push down, keeping support with my sponge on the outside, and I'm slowly compressing this into more of a plate style. Slowly let go, wipe that off. The last thing I'm gonna do is I wanna clean up this little edge I put out there. So I'm gonna make sure my hand's wet, make sure it's wet underneath there, and I'll slowly compress that down. Clean up in here if I think that looks messy, because it does. Now I'm like, that looks really messy, so I'll go back in here with my rib just there. The last thing I'm doing is just cleaning everything up. Any marks I had. And I think I'm gonna call that pretty good. I think that looks pretty good like a plate. So I wanna take this off. So I need my wire tool, which is probably floating around somewhere. I take my wire tool, thank you very much. And when I use this wire tool, what I wanna do is I pull it tight. I put one end down there, and I spin slow. Now the key here is when I spin, then I go all the way to the out and lift it up.